Okay, thank you. And I really appreciate Jeff keeping us on time. What I requested is just a few more minutes because I'm really kind of giving two presentations here. And since I made the agenda, I put myself in two, right at the end with 15 minutes, but I think we have plenty of time. So I'm just excited to talk about two things. First of all, our Transforming Drainage project, particularly because our national program leader, Jim Dobrowolski, this is the first time he's been at one of our meetings, so we'll go very quickly through it. And then it's the ADMS Task Force goals you've already heard about from Dan, the history. I'm going to touch on the history just a little bit more because we need to talk about the future. So I'm going to bring up the issues there, and then hopefully we'll have discussion over lunch. I'm sure that's what you'll all be talking about at lunch tables, and then we'll come back and discuss a little bit more. So our project, the Transforming Drainage Project, our official name is Managing Water for Increased Resiliency of Drained Agricultural Landscape. This is a $5 million project funded by NIFA with all the partners there. And when we got together at our initial meeting to try and think, what's our URL, what's our tagline, I think it was Charlie Schaefer who said, I think you're transforming drainage. And so there we are. And it's our aspirational title, but it keeps it in front of us that this is what our goal is. The vision, and I'm so glad to be talking after Kelly. That's really inspiring what, that North Carolina is doing so much. But the idea is that agricultural drainage will be transformed to not just drain the land, but also include water storage and recycling in the landscape so that the water, as is coming out of this thing, and the nitrate and the phosphorus would go back on the land where it's not lost to the Gulf of Mexico, but actually goes back on the land where it can be used. So the three practices that we're advancing are specifically controlled drainage. So as a picture of the landscape, they need to go in various places, saturated buffers, and drainage water recycling, as we call it. Your name, agricultural water collection and reuse, is interesting. We've thought about reuse. I was a little hesitant there because I'm concerned that reuse suggests like reuse of wastewater. So that's why we haven't used it, but a lot of people seem to like that one. But anyway, that's what we're trying to advance here, that drainage, we need drainage, but we can store it for it to be reused effectively. So how are we doing this? Just big picture first, we've got field research, we've got synthesis and modeling, we're making those into tools, and then extension and education. Our project is doing all of these, and the context what we're also doing is bringing together the network. So just by being here, you're in a way part of the network, but there are various people who are more part of the network as collaborators, as our advisory committee, and all the people with whom we're making written agreements and participate in various ways. I'm going to talk just a little about what we've accomplished. We have field research throughout the region. I picked Missouri because it's a great site, and we have this in 34 different places, information about individual sites, and then we're a network, right? So what we're doing for the first time is gathering all that data together so that in addition to what we can learn from each individual site, we're seeing what we can learn from all of them. So everybody who is a part of this project has agreed to put their, they're all working hard to put their data into a common database managed at Iowa State University. Gio is our manager, and Lori, and do a wonderful job. It just takes a lot of effort on everybody's part to get in. This, to me, is just a fabulous amount of data. Not that we don't need more, Jim, so don't think that it's all answered, but it is amazing how much data is actually together. We've got 161 site years of yield, of crop yield, and then drain flow, water table, the nitrate, nitrogen concentrations, weather, and what we think, the graph on the bottom, I don't think you can read it, but it shows how many sites are included for each year. So the number varies. Obviously, many are to the present, but some were also historical that we got on board to put in their existing data. So what we've been working on over the last day, you've heard about this meeting that was yesterday that most of you weren't at, but we had our project meeting, and what we really focused on is how we can use this incredible resource that we now have, that we've built ourselves, to answer some new questions that we couldn't answer individually. So, how does controlled drainage affect nitrate reductions across the region, and what factors, make the difference? What are the yield impacts from drainage water recycling, essentially supplemental irrigation, on poorly drained soils where we didn't traditionally irrigate? So we don't have the data that one might think we have for irrigation, but we're starting to be able to put that together. Just to continue this fly through. So that's probably the biggest part of it, but we also have a very extensive modeling component. Folks are working on drain mod, especially at NC State, on various individual sites. There's the variable infiltration capacity model of regional impacts at Purdue, and then we're using that in some tools that are under development. One especially to use the drainage water recycling evaluation tool that Ben will be talking about this afternoon, so I won't say more. We worked with NRCS on a controlled drainage suitability kind of map, and the Ag Conservation Practice Framework, and rehearse that, which many of you know about from various parts. They are also connected to this project, so we supported the saturated buffer part of it. And then all this knowledge is going out through all kinds of extension, and this is really a phenomenal group for extension, as you know, those of us who have been together for a long time. We've got a lot on the Transforming Drainage website. We've developed publications, as Dan showed this morning. This one hasn't won an award yet, only because this year it's in, so we'll hope for an award by next year. And lots of field days throughout the region, and so obviously we can tell a very long and complete story about the amazing extension that has been here. We're also very appreciative of the private sector partners. Charlie gave a great overview, and so many of you, and it's been great to work together. Drainage Contractor Magazine has been one of our primary ways to get the message out. Bob Clark Jr. It put a lot of those in. It's been great. We work with ADMS in various ways, and Iowa Soybean. Chris Hay is a key part of it, so it makes that very easy. And finally, we've got education as part of it, and I wasn't going to say much about this, but since Charlie mentioned it, we have a brand new education project funded that's linked to us. So many of us are on the same project, and then there's additional people throughout the region. And it's called Filling the Pipeline, Transforming Agricultural Drainage Education to Meet 21st Century Water Management Needs. We think Laura Christensen came up with that great filling the pipeline, but I'm impressed you remembered that phrase. So we have got drainage experts on the advisory committee for that, and what we'll be doing is putting together a set of modules, and that's what the illustration is here. Each puzzle piece is part of what people need to know, but you can take out one at a time. So the ones that are showing are soil water dynamics, drainage and crop production, subsurface drainage layouts, for example. So you have these modules that are available. They'll first be available to other faculty to use at their universities, and then eventually available for extension to train the industry, as he mentioned. So that's you'll be hearing about it in future years. We're just getting that started. So that, again, is our project with all those components. I know the team would want to see the photo with us in our various poses, so I got that one. So there we are, and we have been meeting for a couple days, and then everyone is here. Okay, so now I'm going to shift gears, and I thought I would be able to tie these a little better together, but at least I wanted, so I'm just sort of shifting gears here. This website may look familiar to some of you who have been around for a long time. I found a presentation when I was looking for this that I had put together in 2012 when I was science advisor at NRCS part-time working with Wayne Honeycutt, and so there were the slides. So that was our old website. The goal of the ADMS task force that you're all at the meeting of, whether you know anything about it or not, this is a task force meeting. And the original goal laid out in 2002, as Dan showed us, was to develop a national effort to implement improved drainage water management. I think we did that, right? All of us, many people who are here really built this national effort. As he also said, so I'm a little bit repeating here, but just a different take a little bit, is that it was set up as a technical work group of the partnership management team. And the problem, as I'll get to, is this framework doesn't exist anymore. This structure doesn't exist. So that's why we're sort of revisiting it, what should be our structure. So that 2002 meeting, The ADMC was established separately, as Charlie pointed out, and so the task force itself was always led by the 3 USDA agencies, ARS, NRCS, and what was then CSRES, now NIFA, because it was in that. So formal, just again, to a little bit more history, in ARS, it was Jim Faust and then Norm Fauci for a long time, and now it hasn't been completely clear who the ARS person is. That's, you know, Dan, you know, Gary, various people played, Barry Allred also, but it hasn't been formal since the time that Norm left. NRCS, through the years, lots of people have participated, but the official lead was often a program person, Will Fontenot, and then Mike Sullivan, who is a state conservationist, and then Doug Taves as the Ag Water Management Engineer, and then Paul Sweeney, as we've said. So again, that's when it really rose up, and then Rob Sampson as the Ag Water Management, National Ag Water Management Engineer. And then that position hasn't been filled. So Ruth Book is the designee now, at least for this meeting, but again, the structure isn't quite there to make it move forward. I have been playing the role ever since the year it started. I was on sabbatical at CSRES, and so this is right when Jim started, I think. So the deputy there said, Jane, you know, we don't have personnel in CSRES to be part of it, so you just represent us. And that's why through the years you've gotten so many emails from me, because, you know, there was nobody else to designate. So where we're at, oh, one more thing before I say where we're at. So one of the things I did once we have the Transforming Drainage project, and now project manager Ben Reinhardt, so many things happen due to his great work, is that we have a website, and so I put all the notes from the 30 meetings where I wrote notes. I think that was the other reason you hear from me a lot, because right when I started, Jim Faust called me up. I was in Washington, D.C., and said, you know, you need to be on this group. So, okay, all of us probably got a call from Jim Faust like that. But I was a little late to arrive, but there hadn't been notes at meetings before that. So all these meetings would happen, but you couldn't find out what had actually happened. So I started writing the notes. So they're actually all my notes, but they are all up there. The other thing I made a note to myself to mention here is that the presentations from today hopefully will be available. So I don't know how the recording is going. You may have seen that we have a WebEx connection. Mark Dietrich at least is on. I think I saw a few others, right? So that's great. So they are hearing it, and if all goes well, we'll have a recording. And if the presenters accept, we will actually post it here, which I think can be a real resource. And also PowerPoint. So Allison, somebody already asked me about your PowerPoint, if you're willing to share it. So that would be where we would put it, because it's a site that's there. Okay, so the other thing that's going on is you always see these very long names of what this meeting is. It's the ADMS Task Force and NSERA. So that's the NIFA-supported land-grant university structure. I think I can say that. So that one has no problem. It's going strong. Our administrators are supporting us. It's going very well. So that structure is there, and anyone else could be added to that. I just want to mention that who participates. Again, this was from the slides I had from a long time ago. It's a long list of kinds of people that I listed. I seem to have forgotten industry, but lots and lots of various groups have been here through the years, and it's been such a resource for all of us to talk together. Why we participate, I at least wrote down some ideas here. We share good ideas. We learn what's happening, right? None of us know all these agencies. We keep up on the latest research. We discuss what it means, right? We try to have lots of discussion, and we'll be going to lunch in a minute, and I think there will be opportunities for discussion there. I think it's next door, but Ben is just checking, I think. And we produce products, and we've seen that. And then just in general, we strategize about how to advance ag drainage management systems. So we want to keep doing all these things, right? But we no longer have that partnership management team structure. So the question I leave you for lunch discussion, and we're going to come back to a short discussion at the end of this afternoon's program. This is not on your schedule, but because one of the speakers, TQ Jang, is not here, we're going to take a little bit for a discussion then, is how should we organize ADMS Task Force to be able to continue to do our mission, which is advancing drainage management systems. We've got a few ideas, but we think that it doesn't need to be so centered in the USDA agencies right now, at least that's my thought, and been discussing with people that we could have some kind of a board of directors with different people, you know, coming in and out, and so we await your thoughts for discussion this afternoon. Okay, thanks. Yeah.